Welcome to Mana's Seal YouTube channel. The previous video link is on the description box or on the top right card. Volume 12. The Paladin of the Holy Kingdom. As the enemy troops slowly formed up, Pavel felt a sharp pain in his throat. The slower the enemy attack, the more forces they could gather to this fortress, and the more time they would have to give the mobilization order. This was the perfect scenario for their commanding officers, but Pavel did not share their opinion. There were Demi-Humans with intellect that surpassed humanity. Surely the commander of such a vast army was no fool. In that case, he would know that giving their opponent time to prepare was a disadvantageous thing. In addition, it was late at night now, and the coming battle would be to the Demi-Humans' advantage. It would be the same even if they lit bonfires. Pavel looked at the enemy lines, 400 meters away. While they were organized by species, no consideration seemed to have been given to things like the weapons they wielded, their respective tactics, their various racial characteristics, and so on. In all likelihood, the Demi-Humans were not marching under the same flag. Otherwise they would have fielded a more logical battle line. Or was this something like an oligarchy, an alliance of Demi-Humans led by a council of equals? Can't quite make it out, boss. Can you see the enemy commander? No, I haven't spotted their leader yet. His men had not reported sighting anything like that so far. However, there had to be a commander. Otherwise, even forming up into units would be very difficult. He can't keep hiding forever. He'll surely show up on the battlefield. Given the nature of Demi-Humans, their leaders were strong, and they would show up to flaunt their strength. That would be the best time for Pavel to work. Pavel clutched his bow. It was a magical composite longbow, infused with enchantment specialized against Demi-Humans. In addition, he also had a mantle of shadow, suitable for blending into shadows and conducting ambushes, boots of silence, which eliminated the sound of his footsteps, a vest of resistance, to improve his resilience against various attacks, a deflection ring, to protect him from ranged weapons, and many other such items. These were a sign of how much Pavel's nation valued him. You lot, prepare to shoot at any time, he ordered his subordinates, who were hidden beside him as though they had vanished into the night. If they were humans, they would exchange envoys to read out declarations and pronouncements. That was a characteristic of wars between nobles. However, nobody from the Holy Kingdom who was quartered in this fortress, the generals included, wanted to parley with the Demi-Humans of the hills. At the very most, they would hold talks to deceive them, or something like talks in order to buy time, and once they spotted the enemy commander they would shoot him dead on the spot. You ought to be heading back to your unit now. I'll do that. Take care, boss. Ah, you too. A wisp of unease wound through Pavel's heart as he watched Overlord leave. Some Demi-Humans possess lethal special attacks. For instance, the mystic eyes of the giant Biclops. These Demi-Humans had unbalanced faces and a pair of disproportionately massive eyes. One of these mystic eyes contained the ability to charm their foes. Its victims would unconsciously approach the opposition. Indeed, they would disregard the fact that they were on walls to take the shortest path towards the Demi-Human who had enthralled them. Usually, they would be equipped with magic items to improve their resistance to such special abilities, but Overlord had not been furnished with such items. If his luck was bad, he might be taken out in one shot. He closed his eyes to clear away his unease, and a woman's figure appeared in Pavel's mind. She was one of the 9 colors, the woman known as the White. She worries me too, but in a different way. She's clueless and often gets the people around her in trouble. That's why Pink has it so hard. Why does my daughter want to join her? Wouldn't it be good enough for her to just normally meet a good man, fall in love with him, and then marry him? No. He shook away the worry for his daughter that swelled in his heart. At the same time, he looked back at the Demi-Human lines to change his mood. He did not know how many Demi-Humans stood at the foothills, but there were many flags waving there. Those flags were not camouflage. The sole 3rd-tier magic caster in this fortress had already verified it from the sky. In other words, there really were that many combat units gathered here today. Things would not end with a simple staring match. Pavel began his usual ritual. He took out a carved wooden doll from his breast pocket and then kissed it. This was a figurine his daughter had made when she was 6. It was a grotesque doll with 4 sticks coming out of a bowl, made to look like her father. He still clearly remembered the day when he had praised her by saying, "This is a really cool monster," and how she had burst into tears, and how his wife had kicked him. The doll was worn out because he had touched it countless times, and the carved eyes and mouth were fading away. She had grown much older since that time, so he wanted her to make a figurine that looked more like him. But perhaps she did not know his heart, because she showed no signs of wanting to remake it. It was probably because of his long tours of duty stationed here, but he rarely had the chance to see his wife and daughter. He felt himself drawing further and further away from her every day. In the past she would have hugged him immediately, but at some point, she no longer hugged him after he returned home. She's grown independent of her father, his wife has smiled, but this was a big thing to Pavel. If I could take 2 months leave, I'd like to go camping as a family, like we used to. His daughter would listen with rapt attention whenever he taught her his ranger knowledge. That was what he was aiming for. That said, he knew it would probably not work out. He put the doll back into his pocket. His daughter was rarely home due to her aim of becoming a paladin. When Pavel returned to his home after a long absence, his daughter was often away. It would be best if she married a neighbor after all. No, someone who lived a little close by, or no, someone who stayed in the vicinity. A paladin's way of life was the least suitable for his daughter. He had been observing her all this time, so he was sure of it. His daughter had chosen this path because she admired how her mother looked as a paladin. However, that was not enough to be a paladin. Only a knight who physically expressed the justice they believed in could be called a paladin. Therefore, although he did not say it, largely because his wife was very scary to him, paladins were essentially zealots. I wonder if my girl knows that. Well, I don't want her to know. That really is an incredible number out there. His adjutant muttered to himself under his breath, which brought Pavel to his senses. Ah, that's right. Still, there's no need to be scared. All you need to do is support me. In addition to his adjutant, the mood from the men around him relaxed somewhat. That's right, that's it. Tension is the archenemy of sniping. And just as Pavel broke his own blank face, although he did not realize it, with a thin smile, there was movement in the enemy lines. A lone Demi-Human slowly stepped forward. Despite the many Demi-Humans around him, he was unescorted. Did he not need an escort, or was he full of arrogance, or perhaps he was a messenger whose death would not be missed? Should we shoot him? Not for now. But move to a place where it'll be easy to shoot and then wait for my order. After quietly giving his orders, his men sped away in droves, like lengthening shadows. Was he the enemy general, or just a simple messenger? Pavel studied him carefully to find out. That Demi-Human, what species does he belong to? Doesn't feel like I've seen him before, and what's with those clothes? Is it a tribal outfit? Is that mask something like that too? He was definitely not human. There was a tail coming from behind his waist. The problem was the Demi-Human's clothes. One could think of it as a tribal costume, and indeed, it felt like it might have been something like that. However, even at this distance, one could tell that the clothing was of excellent make, even when compared to that of humans. Highly civilized Demi-Humans are very troublesome. It was not just Pavel. All the soldiers waiting on the walls gulped as they watched every move the Demi-Human made. Amidst the oppressive mood in the air, the Demi-Human approached to within 50 meters of his location. That's far enough. Any further and you'll be encroaching on the Holy Kingdom's territory. This is no place for you Demi-Humans. Leave at once. The voice was loud enough that even Pavel, who was some distance away, felt it was loud. It came from the man in command of the fortress, one of just 5 generals in the Holy Kingdom. He imagined he could feel the voice of the man in unadorned battle-scarred armor resonating in his gut. The reason why he only had one staff officer by his side was probably because he did not intend to get the others caught up in it if the enemy launched an attack. In their place were many troops with tower shields, hidden behind them, ready to rush out if anything happened. In contrast, the Demi-Human's voice was gentle and pleasing to the ear. It seemed to worm its way into every man's heart. Even at this distance, it still reached Pavel's ears. That we already know. Now then, may I know who you are? I'm the general in charge of this fortress. Who are you? There was no need to tell the opposition that. Pavel frowned, but he already knew that the general was not a shrewd man. Therefore, he should have regarded this outcome as inevitable. I see. Since you have given your name, I fear it might be rude not to respond in kind. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the Holy Kingdom. My name is Jaldabaoth. Could it be? The man who shouted was the staff officer near the general. The archfiend Jaldabaoth. Are you the demon who led an army of demons in that disturbance in the kingdom's royal capital? Oh, I am honored that you know my name. Indeed, I was the architect of that magnificent feast in the Riesti's kingdom. However, the title of Archfiend is quite saddening. Yes, I was wondering if you could address me as the Demon Emperor Jaldabaoth. Pavel tasted that phrase, Demon Emperor Jaldabaoth. It was a truly arrogant title, but given the many Demi-Humans it led, and after thinking back on what he had heard about the disturbance in the royal capital, that title might be well deserved. Damn you. Are you laying your designs on us after what you did to the kingdom? No, that is not quite right. It is because I met a fearsome warrior in the kingdom. Jaldabaoth shrugged boredly. There was an indescribable sense of style to that movement, and it made Pavel imagine he was looking at a human noble for a moment. Well, do permit me to keep that knowledge to myself. Then what business do you have here? Why did you lead these Demi-Humans to this place? I have come here to turn this country into a living hell. I wish to make this country one which echoes with cries, curses, and screams everlasting. However, making sport of millions of human beings individually is impossible, and so I have brought them along. In my place, they will plunge you pitiful humans shoulder deep into a morass of despair, in order to draw wails of regret and suffering from you all. Jaldabaoth said so very happily. At this point, Pavel learned the meaning of evil. What the holy men shouted about the wicked Demi-Humans was nothing more than propaganda to raise fighting spirit. It was practically sleep talking. From a detached point of view, Demi-Human invasions were nothing more than going to the farm to feed themselves. Terror filled Pavel's body. At the same time, he made up his mind. He would not allow that demon to set foot upon the Holy Kingdom's land, where his wife and daughter were. He tightened his grip on the bow in his hand. If Jaldabaoth's words were intended to intimidate them, then they had been a complete failure. Humans were not cowardly and weak creatures. They would let him taste the foolishness of underestimating humanity with their vicious counterattack.